Hello and welcome to Scarfey Spurs, where your opinion matters. We've got plenty to get through once again tonight. Tottenham's Premier League opener is fast approaching, but is this squad ready? We'll be discussing the latest transfer links to Cody Gakpo, Pedro Neto, Savinho, and even Nicholas Jackson, while asking why Spurs don't seem to be linked with an out-and-out top striker. Has Tottenham swapped an obsession with Chelsea managers for Chelsea players, from Timo Werner to Dominic Solanke and Conor Gallagher to now links with Pedro Neto and Nicholas Jackson? We'll be debating whether that's a fair question to be asked or complete nonsense. We'll also be reacting to Micky van der Ven's expected new 5-year contract with an option to 2032, making him one of the highest paid players at the club. Dejan Kulusevski, yes, he's alive, and he's also back in some form of training along with Mohamed Kudus. That's a lovely sight today, let me tell you that. We'll also be discussing Ashley Phillips' move to Middlesbrough, if Tottenham will become a really good selling club or not. Mikey Moore's expected loan, and then lastly, previewing the final pre-season game against Getafe. So we're talking all things there. So yeah, that is the agenda for tonight. So get involved as always, your comments, with your questions. If listening on YouTube and you're new, subscribe, drop us a follow and a 5-star review if you enjoy and you're listening via audio platforms. Let's introduce tonight's panel then, hosted by me, as always, Harry Scarfe. Firstly, Dustin, thank you so much for joining us live from Singapore. How are you doing today, Dustin?
All right, doing okay. Been looking. I watched Odyssey this week, but we are coming to a longer saga now, which is our saga to sign a striker.
Absolutely. I've heard that's very, very popular. I'd like to see it myself, but the numbers look very, very good for that. Fantastic stuff. You're right. Striker saga will definitely be discussed in today's episode. Alfie, thank you so much for joining us. Don't worry, you have been allowed back on after the last episode. 3 in a row, not bad at all. If we get Spurs players scoring 3 weeks in a row, I'm certainly going to be happy. Great to have you back. How you doing?
As always, I can back up that the Odyssey is an unbelievable movie. Not Nolan's best, but one of the best. But it's a hat trick, 3 in a row, buzzing to be here again. Hopefully it's less eventful, but we're talking about Cody Gakpo today, so I think we'll see, won't we, to be honest.
Your favourite player, totally.
Absolutely.
And, apologies again about the tough question in the
last
episode. But
I loved it.
We had to go there. It was good fun. Yeah, absolutely. It was good fun. Alfie, thank you very, very much. Ian, it's a pleasure to have you back on. Thank you very, very much. Twice in quick concession. How you doing, Ian?
Yeah, I'm doing well. Always a pleasure to be on your show, Harry. Always interesting, always good guests. Alfie falling off his chair with laughter at that thought. And looking forward to tonight's discussion. Lots of interesting things to discuss. Your point about a number 9 is right, but I've got some thoughts on that. So I'll let you introduce Jack, and then we'll come back to it, no doubt.
Certainly will. That's big on the agenda today, and let me tell you that, big on the agenda for sure. Ian, thank you very, very much. Jack's fantastic to have you back on. It's been a week or two, but it's lovely to have you back. How have you been doing, Jack?
Not too bad. I think it's been since Alfie started getting roasted by some random geezer in the comments. So I hope to not see that person again. If he does, then everyone gets a little bit of entertainment as well as we do. But no, happy to be back. It'd be nice to talk about the striker saga that is going on. I think I'm into like episode 15 at this point. I've still got a load of episodes more to go. But I also have not watched Odyssey, for everyone else talking about it, and I haven't watched it. But I probably should. It's either I go to the cinema and pay, or don't tell anyone else. I've got one of the Fire Sticks, so I might use that instead. But apart from that, we're all talking about Tottenham, not about what I do in my background life. But so many things to talk about Tottenham, so many things before it leads up to the season starting. And if we can actually get a number 9 over the line, I'd be a little bit more solidified in myself to be watching this season. But if we don't get it, I'll be a little bit concerned. I'm definitely not going to be holding back at this point if we are asked very difficult questions.
Absolutely. That's the thing. I think we can appreciate what we've done so far, but also go, look, realistically, are we in the state to start the season? I'm thinking particularly with that forward line. Thank you all for joining me. A reminder to everybody as well, listen, your opinion really does matter when you choose Scarfey Spurs. We value it. We want to hear from you. So please do get in touch and let us know your thoughts on everything and anything discussed in this episode. Very, very quickly, a positive signs for Scarfey Spurs last month in July, 46,055 YouTube views, which is an increase of 1,000 13,500 to be exact, in June, making us, well, in the top 20 for Spurs fan channels in July. We may have dropped a couple of places in the Spurs fan channel rankings, but our audience is still growing. That's what's most important. People enjoying it. More people are coming over. So thank you for all the support. Plenty more to come. We're just getting started. Right, let's get into it then. I want to talk Micky van der Ven first. What do we know? So, SZY exclusive posted today on X that Micky van der Ven will sign a new 5-year contract at Tottenham with an option for a further year, which would take it to 2032. He would now be one of the highest earners at the club. Dustin, can I get your reaction to this? Are you surprised, firstly, that Van der Ven that is 5 years and an option to extend, so 6 years in total? That's a big contract.
It is, but I think that we were kind of on the verge of losing him last season. I think basically whenever any Spurs player goes to play golf with Gary Neville or have an interview with them, they should be banned from doing that. And Gary Neville should be banned from our ground for saying, oh, it might be good if Spurs went down. So broadly speaking, I think that it's good that we've renewed his contract because he still does have value to us, even if he does get sold at some point in the future, which he might. But I think that it also helps that we've renewed his contract because we're breaking our wage structure, we're bringing all these new players in, and the unspoken thing about doing things like that is it can spoil the squad harmony because essentially all your existing players are looking at the new players going, why are you getting paid so much more than I am? So I think that you should be seeing a raft of contract renewals that will bring existing players that we're looking to keep back up to par with the new signings, and that's good in and of itself because if it's players that we want to keep, it extends the runway of their contracts so we're not losing them for free. But I think it also represents some kind of a reassurance for Van der Ven that he's still in our plans, considering that we've been signing lots of centre-backs. It's very easy to see those signings and go, is my place actually secure? And considering that they're all kind of a certain archetype of centre-back, which is all about, being good through passes, and that's not really Van der Ven's skill set. I was wondering whether we would end up having only through passing centre-backs and not a centre-back that has his very unique kind of ball carrying capabilities. So the fact that he's been signed suggests that, he might be a weapon that we use either as a ball carrier when teams leave us space, or maybe even as an auxiliary left back, which a lot of people talk about us doing, but I don't really see that happening because I don't think it's the way that De Zerbi likes to develop play. But and even when he did it in Netherlands, I don't think that it's necessarily the best place for him to be.
I totally agree with that. Dustin, thank you very, very much. And Alfie, if the news and the in-and-outs are believed to be correct, they're proved right, then he will become, they haven't said necessarily the highest, but one of the highest earners at Tottenham. Do you think a big reason of this is, Conor Gallagher coming in January, maybe a sign of the wage structure being broken in terms of he was the highest paid player? Do you think that Van der Ven would have turned around and said, look, I want close or the same as Gallagher's page? If there's any part of that where he goes, hang on, Gallagher's paid that, I've got to be paid similar?
I mean, absolutely. I mean, if I'm Van der Ven, I'm wanting the same, if not more, than Conor Gallagher. He's done more for the club, I think, than Conor Gallagher will do going forward. I think you look at Micky van der Ven, it's a 5-year deal with potential 6 years. He's 25. It takes him all the way through his prime into his early 30s. We're going to get him during his prime, which is it's ridiculous. So if I'm Van der Ven, I'd be absolutely asking for more money. I mean, he basically won us a Europa League title with that off the line clearance against Manchester United in the final. He deserves all the money in the world, to be honest. But for me, I think it's very important that we got him down on this contract, especially the fact when Liverpool are monitoring him, Barcelona are monitoring him, and the fact he still chose Tottenham and for another 6 years potentially. I think it'd be like a new signing, to be honest, in terms of him signing his contract. That's how I like to see it. And him being one of the highest earners at the club, I think it's more than deserved, to be completely honest. Even though he has some attitude problems, hopefully he kind of, stops that now. But yeah, I think he deserves the contract, absolutely.
Alfie, thank you very, very much. Jack, can I come to you? Do you agree with Alfie that it is deserved? I'm particularly thinking last season there was a few questions around his attitude, his body language, his leadership at times. If we blank in Thomas Frank, whatever we thought of him, various moments where Spurs fans weren't happy with him maybe just a little bit, or thought he could be off in the summer. I personally was worried that we could lose him. I'd never said that I think, oh, it's going to happen, we're going to lose him. But at points I was worried what would happen in the summer. So what do you make of this kind of turnaround where, not only is he staying, but it's got looks like quite a big deal as well, both money-wise and length-wise?
No, I definitely 100% agree with Alf. It's fully deserved of him, to be fair. But I'll echo the exact same thing. He pretty much became the goalkeeper right at the end of that game in the Europa League, saving that goal line clearance from Luke Shaw's header. And he's done a lot more than just that. I don't really want to compare him to a Kyle Walker per se, because Kyle Walker is a completely different position than him. But he has that same similar running up and down the pitch and be able to get back as quick as possible as he can. That's the only sort of comparison I'm making. They're nowhere near the same player, because one plays on the right hand side, one plays centre, and obviously one's very much taller than the other. That's the only main difference from my point of view. But no, I've loved Vicky van der Ven since he came here. I'd had like a massive thing looking him up when I was like, because not very many people knew who he was when he was at Wolfsburg. So I was like, who is this kid? What is he about? And you just see him just going up and down the pitch, running around up to the halfway line, tracking the whole way back, and playing that progressive football and being a ball carrier like Dustin was saying. But look, I think he's more than deserving of a contract extension, and also his wage extension, because I think with Romero being also one of the highest paid earners defensive wise as well, and if he's looking to leave, then we want our other defender, who's going to be our main defender for that whole season, to be happy. We've obviously given Jean-Paul Van Kanker whatever contract he has and however much per week. But I think Micky van der Ven, with the player that he is and the player that we want to keep a hold of for obviously another 6 years, we want to keep him happy in this sort of way possible as well. But look, I'm overall happy with him getting his contract extension. I think with the whole Thomas Frank thing, I think he was just showing his human emotion that we were. All of us fan base were fed up with what was going on at the club when Thomas Frank was in, and then we got even more fed up when Igor Tudor came in. And now De Zerbi's come in. I think he's given him a bit that spark back to say we might have a chance in this. And then obviously we then stayed up in the division. And I think it's sort of turned around to say, look, as much as we've had our bad days, our good days are still yet to come. So with him playing in his prime and being at the best fitness level and the best physical level that he can be, I think that's going to do a world of good for us, especially with all the competition that we already have. We're only playing one game a week, unless obviously with the club trophies that are obviously in the EFL Cup, Carabao Cup, that sort of thing. So he's not going to be overworked and he's not going to be pushed to his limits completely. But I think this would be a massive step up for him as a player and as a person. So all I can say is well done to him.
If you don't mind me adding something to that, which is like I don't think I can see a player kind of giving Thomas Frank issues with the way that he was setting up the team. I don't see that as a negative. You might think of it as a disciplinary issue, but if you care about winning and you can see a coach is doing something that's actively harming the team, I think a player that takes responsibility speaks up and tries to do something about it. So I don't see any downside from players. In fact, I respect them for bucking the order and doing that, because it was necessary, and eventually, it was kind of proven to be the case.
I'd also like to add something, if that's okay. There's a stark difference between Van der Ven and Romero in that respect, of course. Van der Ven kept it mostly internal, whilst Romero, made a big fuss about it. That, for me, Van der Ven would rather do it on the internal side and not get fans too worried than go out on Instagram and make these statements, get us worried about the future of the club. That is... I think Van der Ven may have some kind of clause in his contract potentially if he does become captain. He does get a wage increase, which I think he will be part of the leadership group when it is announced in some kind of way. And I think he'll be tipped to become a future captain potentially. But for me, comparing Romero and Van der Ven is a better leader, I think. I mean, he's more reliable on the pitch. He doesn't get red cards every 3 games. He's played more games than Van der Ven, I believe. I think it's 60% then Romero. Sorry, I think Romero only played 60% of games for Tottenham. Am I right in saying that? Something like
62%.
That's ridiculous. I think Van der Ven's more reliable. I think he's better than Romero. He's 25, going into his prime. We've got him for from 25 to 31. Yeah, I just think Van der Ven's here for the long term and will be part of that leadership group, which he's fully deserving of, like we've said. So, yeah, that's why I think Van der Ven is better than Romero in that respect, because obviously there's a comparison between the two. So, yeah.
Appreciate that. No, I appreciate you mentioning that. I think that's really, really important to say. And I like the way as well that Dustin, going back to that as well, looked at that with Thomas Frank in terms of we all knew maybe where it was heading towards Thomas Frank. So, yeah, it's that kind of going against the grain, if you like. Is it disrespect? Is it emotion? And it's very difficult to understand in the moment. But I was personally worried that Van der Ven's head was elsewhere. And it probably would have been, I guess, if we stuck with, the current manager in Thomas Frank or Igor Tudor, let's say. But luckily, De Zerbi coming in, I think, at the right time for Van der Ven. Ian, I'll come to you before we move on from Van der Ven. I want to get your thoughts because there were times last year, I'm sure you agree, that you're on this podcast and you might have been a little bit worried about potentially losing Van der Ven, and his head kind of maybe seemed swayed of a move away from Tottenham. So how important is it that we've got him committed, particularly with Romero expected to leave? There was a big fear, wasn't there, amongst Spurs fans just a few months ago that we'd be losing both our centre backs. Now I think we want Romero to go. That situation's changed, but we're keeping Van der Ven.
Yeah, I'm happy to see Romero go, and the sooner the better. It's indicative, I think, of the fact that Romero's a World Cup winner, World Cup finalist, etc., and we're having to sell him for peanuts. And the reason for that is pure supply and demand. We have a player that's meant to be a supposedly a world-class defender, and yet nobody wants him. Why don't they want him? Because of his attitude, because he ups and downs tools when he wants. He's available for his country much more than he is for his club, and other clubs see that, so they can't get the money. I'm a little bit more sympathetic with Van der Ven than some of my panelists here. The writing for me was on the wall. I think it was November, the Chelsea game, when Van der Ven and Spence completely blanked Thomas Frank. And Levy had gone in September. That happened in November, and nothing happened, and results got worse and worse. And the board appeared to be completely paralysed by their indecision. They learned the lesson. They learned it late, but having got in Tudor, realised quickly they'd made a mistake, then got in De Zerbi, and all of a sudden, yes, we're still playing Premier League football because, let's not forget how close we came to be looking at Championship, and Micky being, one of, 10, 12 great players that were leaving the club. I think this guy, I think he was entitled to be pissed off. Players want to play good football. They want to play attractive football. They don't want to be told they're going to lose matches. They want to be told how they're going to win matches. And De Zerbi tells them every week how they're going to win matches, how they're going to challenge at the top of the table, and how they're going to win trophies. So the thing for me, I'm not worried about the man's past. The fact that he's prepared to commit, as someone else said, what are the best days of his career now, because he'll be 30 or 31 when his contract comes to an end. And assuming nothing silly happens, like a bad injury, or Madrid come in and say, we'll pay £200 million, he's spending the vast majority of his career at Tottenham. And I think a player of his ability is only doing that if he believes in the project in front of him. And that's what really encourages me throughout the club. Yeah, this board took a long, long time to get its act together, but it's finally doing it. And there's one story that went, just quickly, because I know you want to move on, Harry.
No, of course, go for it.
One story that I think went really under the radar is that Vinay is empowering people at the club. Now, those of you that work in, still work in business will know exactly what that means in terms of being given the responsibility and being given the authority to make decisions for yourselves. Whereas under Levy was absolutely the worst micromanager that you could have, and people, in the back of the club couldn't progress. So I think that's something else that makes me think the future is really bright. I know people are coming, moaning about the strike.
Micky van der Ven. A lot of you are commenting on the striker situation, rightly so, I think, and the winger situation. That's what matters now. Let's be honest about it. That we're going to come on to next. But before that, Dustin, briefly, we're going to go through a chart that you've got, I believe, in terms of centre back. So, yeah, talk us through that. You're on mute, Dustin. We'll wait to hear what Dustin's saying about it. We'll wait for his superb analysis. Always worth waiting for.
Yeah. So basically what we have is you have a chart of like Romero, Senesi, and Van Hecker's radar, right? And it covers aerials, carrying, all the things that you can read for yourself. Basically progressive passes are the main thing that Romero was kind of like, he was unique in our team for being able to do that from centre back. And you see over here that we've basically signed two of the centre backs in the league that are actually better at him than at progressive passes. I think the area where we may be losing out a little bit is aerials, because Romero's aerial ability, I think a lot of this is actually comprised of his attacking aerial headers in the opposition box rather than defensive aerials. So I think that's one area that we may need to look at, which is whether we are less.
If you need me, but I'm kind of more about being a squad player, but we'll have to see. I think some people are very harsh on that, so I will say that. Dustin, thank you very, very much. For now, we will progress, because earlier this week on the Scarfey's personal X page, I carried out a poll. And it got a load of response, far more than I expected. And it was a simple question. Well, say simple. It was a short question, but I'll let you decide if it's simple or not. And the question was, if you had to keep one and sell one, of course, hypothetical, out of Solanke and Richarlison, which way would you go? So, votes in 48 hours, we received 1,693 votes. I was very, very happy with that in the space of 48 hours. So, the options were keep Solanke and sell Richarlison, keep Richarlison and sell Solanke. 57% of you, I repeat, 57% of you on X voted to keep Solanke, but to sell Richarlison. 43% saying let's keep Richie and sell Solanke. Alfie, I'm going to come to you first, right? Because we discussed this, didn't we, in length on the last episode. I said I'd carry out a poll, and I stuck to my word on that, and we carried it out. We've got the results here. Are you surprised by the outcome at all?
No, because you did it beforehand and people said to keep Solanke. But then obviously we spoke about it and people said to go get rid of Solanke. And I think I'm not surprised. I think financially you get more for him than Richarlison. Obviously Solanke being English helps him out. Being a homegrown talent too will help a lot of clubs in the Premier League. So I think you get more money from him that way. I think Richarlison is also... People will argue that Solanke's better than Richarlison, which I don't get, but that's just me. But I just think Solanke's worth more.
This poll is saying like to keep Solanke, so it's saying.
Oh, sorry, I've heard you wrong. Oh, right, I'm wrong.
No, it's all right. So yeah, 50% saying, 57% rather. Sorry, saying to keep Solanke and sell Richarlison.
Oh, sorry. Okay.
No, it's all right. I believe if I carried out this poll 5 weeks ago, let's just say, that it would have been like an 80-20 or 90-10 split, with 90% saying, look, we have to sell Richarlison first. But my point is, it's coming in a little bit, isn't it? Where it seems there's there's a lot of votes there, nearly 1,700, and a big chunk, it's not the majority, it's 43%, but 43% valuing Richarlison more than Solanke, really, by this poll.
Yeah, I mean, it is interesting. Again, I'm not surprised. Obviously, Richarlison's played more in pre-season, which will obviously help his stock a little bit. Obviously, scoring against Chelsea will also help his stock. Solanke nowhere to be seen, of course, unreliable. So I'm not surprised it's getting closer and closer, and I think it will swap over eventually before the Premier League season starts. I'm so surprised that people would sell Richarlison over Solanke. I think the only logical reason why people might think this is because I think if a good offer came in for Richarlison, we'd probably take it. But Solanke, I think there'd be a lot more legwork with it in terms of a fee, because he was our record signing. So we want to get at least 30-40 million for him. But with Richarlison, probably 15-20 million, I reckon. So maybe that's a factor. But yeah, that's the only kind of reasons why I think people would want to keep Solanke over Richarlison. But again, that will probably switch over.
Alfie, thank you very, very much. So that's the first time we've held out a poll being that literal with the question, from engaging with Spurs fans, looking at the comments across the Scarfey Spurs page from the start of the summer to where we are now, heading into that latter stage as the season starts to begin. I've seen a massive shift in kind of in terms of how people feel about it from, don't get wrong, a lot of people say, look, I've always wanted to sell Bo, etc. But I think if you said to people, you have to sell one and keep one, it would have always been, yeah, you keep Solanke and you give him one more year, and Richarlison, you move on. But unfortunately for Solanke, I think every time he steps on the pitch, he loses. I said it in the last episode, and I repeat that he loses the faith of more Spurs fans. So we go, oh, hang on, we can get more from him here, and he's just disappointing. Where if Richarlison gets the old goal, Solanke did last season, but in pre-season, not the case. Not really impressing. Ian, I'll come to you. How do you feel about this? And ultimately, I haven't asked you this question. So if you had to keep one and sell one out of Solanke and Richarlison, which way would you go?
100% keep Solanke, 100%. And not least of which, Solanke is the only player we have in the club now that can actually hold the ball up. I don't quite fathom why you would keep Richie and sell Solanke. Not saying either of them are good enough, but we've seen time and again when Solanke was injured last season, the ball was simply going up to, it's like watching Subbuteo. The ball was hitting off Richarlison, and he was giving the ball to the opposition. You can't have that, particularly when you're under pressure. So to me, it's a no-brainer. Whether Solanke will ever prove to be good enough for Tottenham, I don't know. I mean, I looked, someone said, was it Dustin? Was it you just said you've got some sort of comparison with Krupi, which might be interesting because there was a fascinating analysis when we signed Solanke, comparing him with the Celtic centre forward. What's his name? I've lost his name. Went to Birmingham. I've lost his name. But where Solanke is not a big goal scorer with his head, but where he gets his goals is in and around the penalty spot. And if you take a square from the penalty spot, taking about 6 yards, 8 yards either way, that's where he gets his goals from. Left foot, right foot, and a few with the head as well. And that the thing is, I don't see since he's joined that we've been able to provide him with that kind of service. Yeah, you can say that he's missed too many that he's had, but you say that of Richarlison as well. No, for me, I want another centre forward. But Solanke as backup, fine. I'd like to see Richarlison leave the club. I think he's gone as far as he can with the club. I think there's more to come from Solanke, given the right service.
Okay, thank you very, very much. And I can confirm that poll on X that 24 hours in, this was incredible, by the way, we had 1,000 responses in 24 hours. And not only that, but it was split dead on, I'm not even joking, 50% both ways. And I thought, oh, this is interesting. I woke up and then there'd been a 5-6% shift overnight, which is interesting. So maybe, don't think about it, overanalyze it or anything like that, but maybe the wider audience outside of the UK maybe not favouring Richarlison because he's dropped overnight, which was interesting, and a few fans around the world that said, okay, we'd voted during the night, so that was interesting. So the poll was, I expected to be close. We discussed that we think it'd be close, but again, I repeat, I don't think it would have been close at the start of the window. So this is interesting. Dustin, I'll come to you to talk about this graphic on screen, the comparison really between Dom Solanke and Krupi, and also weighing in on the discussion that we're having now. Out of, if you had to keep one and sell one, Richarlison, Solanke, which way would you move? Because I think it's unrealistic, tell me if I'm wrong, but unrealistic to say that we're going to sell both before the end of the window. Time's running out.
I think it's unrealistic to sell both, and I think that there are a couple of reasons you would keep Solanke, which is with Richarlison, he scored 10 goals last season. Arguably, we would have been relegated without his goals. So, I think we have to put it in context of we think we can do better than Richarlison, but without Richarlison, we probably would have gone down. That said, the reason that Richarlison did a lot better last season was because Thomas Frank was basically give it to Porro, ask him to cross the ball in, and that's playing into Richarlison's strengths, which is being a menace in the box, being, scoring off headers or scissors kicks for some reason. And that's just not Solanke's style of play necessarily. So I think that a big part of the reason Richarlison overperformed compared to Solanke, you can put it down to the injuries for sure. But I think a bigger part of it as well was that the style of play under Thomas Frank was, you want a target man, and that's what Richarlison is. And if you look at the striker that were allegedly going after Junior Krupi before he got injured, the profile of Junior Krupi more closely matches Solanke in shape than it does Richarlison or the other strikers that we're looking to be we're rumored to be in talks with. The main part you see over here is that they have a similar shape in terms of tackles won, and a big part of a striker in the Zerbi system will be about leading the press. So tackles won would be one of the things that you're looking for. The other part, I think that Krupi, who we were going for before he was injured, was that he would get a lot more involved in build-up play. And I think that Solanke is very similar as a connector rather than a target man, a striker that drops deep, keeps possession, brings other teammates into play, and then maybe joins the box as a late arriver. Rather than being a fox in the box, he's more of I'll drop deep, pull people out of position, bring my teammates in, and then try to score from the space that's created there. So that's kind of where I see Solanke's similarity to Krupi, indicating that if he's fit and we can keep him fit and he has a good season, he does contribute some of the attributes that Krupi has. So rather than spend a lot of money to sign someone else, you can have a homegrown player that is already here, and if we can keep him fit, you don't have to spend 80 million, 90 million on a striker that may or may not hit those heights or may not fit the system and have chemistry with his teammates.
Okay, fantastic stuff. Well, who would have thought it? The majority of strikers will actually do it right and score a few goals if they have the service. And I'd really pose a question to anybody last year, and this applies to both Solanke and Richarlison. Did they really have the service? Of course, Porro's delivery, I would say anyway, is exceptional, but I don't think the midfield was great. I think that's often forgotten about, the midfield not providing the service. I just think, look all around the team, really, the spine of it was not very strong looking back. Jack, before we move on to some strikers we've been linked to, then some wingers we've been linked to, how do you feel about the whole Solanke and Richarlison kind of comparison, the whole debate out of the keep one, sell one? Because you've been on this podcast many times, which I've had the pleasure of having you, and we've spoke about this in detail. I mean, tell me if I'm wrong, but when you've appeared on the podcast earlier this summer or just earlier this year in 2026, the poll wouldn't have been as close as this, would it? A lot of people would have said sell Richarlison, whereas now only 57% out of a good sample size have said that they would sell Richarlison. Not as many as before.
No, I think I can 100% say that. It's hard to judge two players when they have both having. Well, Richarlison played a lot more of last season than Solanke did. Obviously, Solanke played a lot more in the Europa League season than he did this season due to unfortunate injuries, and that's been the plague on our team for the last 2 years anyway now. So we're all used to seeing a lot of injuries in this club. But I think I was quite surprised when we actually signed Dominic Solanke at first off, because there was a lot of people that we were linked with at the time, and then we sort of signed Solanke from Bournemouth after obviously coming off of a decent season from Bournemouth. Obviously, he's been there for a long time, helped him get from the Championship back up into the Premier League, and then obviously now he's at Tottenham. So I don't think, for me personally, I haven't really seen a lot of Solanke to be a massive judge because of where he's had his injury problems and loads of other little bits and pieces as well. And obviously, I've seen a lot of Richarlison, and I think I've said it many times on this podcast where I've told everyone on here and loads of other people that Richarlison's probably one of the slowest strikers in the world and has been branded by that from TalkSport and all other different places. And he's when he is firing, he's a very, very good striker, and because he's tall, he can be that target man. Like, I remember the first game, the 2 assists from Kudos in the first game of this season, where he scored just a random scissor kick out of nowhere for our 2-0 win. He can just do these things, and I don't know if that's Brazilian flair or just his striker instincts, but he can do these things. And when he is hitting. But when his confidence just drops, his whole game just falls off. And same with Solanke, and same with a lot of other teammates as well. But the one stat that I can say which actually mind boggles me. For them both being quite similar ages, Richarlison 29 and Solanke 28, their goals and assists are so close to each other, and their overall goal contributions as well. Like Solanke just beats Richarlison by 1, and he is a year younger. Now, I don't know if that means a lot to anyone. Obviously, with I think Solanke's only scored, I think, like 12 goals in 42 appearances or something along that line, and Richarlison's only scored 34, and he's had over 100 appearances. But we can all say that Solanke was our top goal scorer last year with 10 goals. But again, 10 goals from a striker, yes, he's good. You like hitting those double numbers, but we've got to be hitting more than just 10, like 100%. But look, I think I voted on it. I said that I'd rather keep Solanke over Richarlison. I think not only is his attitude sort of falling off, I think his fitness levels are slightly falling down as well. He can't really keep up with the Premier League that much anymore than when he could do in his Everton days. Solanke still has that progression to go. He just needs to work on getting fully fit. And if Solanke was fully fit and fully firing, and so was Richarlison, it's one of those situations where you sort of look at it and go, well, could you be playing both of them? If they're both hitting the ball properly and they're both up to full fitness, you can having them both will double the amount of chances that we can get of expected goals. But I personally think Richarlison sort of I would gently say he's falling out. He's falling off a little bit when it comes to Premier League standard. And I think if he was the one to get sold over Solanke, then that's good, because if we get in like a younger striker than both of them, say like 22, 23, then either one of them they could learn off of. But I think I'd rather them learn off of Solanke, who is homegrown, has been in the Premier League for so many years, than I probably would do with Richarlison and his heavy touch and his slowness to get towards balls and his attitude.
Okay. Jack, thank you very, very much. And thank you to the entire panel for that discussion. Let's read out a few comments then before we do progress. Big up to Crave Sullivan, who says Richarlison has scored nearly double the amount of career Premier League goals in Solanke, and Richarlison was our top scorer last season. David Clark says, De Zerbi says, Solanke is one of the best strikers in the Premier League. I'd like to question his sanity. A very nice guy, but he may not be able to have all the attributes of a top 9. Robbie saying that since his injury, Solanke has gone lame. If he was a horse, they'd have to shoot him, he says. For me, his form shot, so we have to move him now before there's no fee to be recouped. Ronnie saying that, sorry, for me, it's sell Richie and sell Solanke. I can't do another season of either of them. That's why I asked the hypothetical. I think a lot of people will agree with you, Ronnie, but if you had to keep one, I'm interested to know which way you would go on that one. I think it's a good question. Terry Wright in the YouTube chat saying, I honestly don't see us selling either this summer. Do you know what? I think I agree with you. He says neither have much market value, 15 to 20 million for Richarlison and 35 to 40 million for Solanke. Spot on, if I may say so. We've got here from Mick, he says, sell both Solanke and Richarlison. We cannot go into a new season with either of these two poor strikers. Robbie says, make that 44% for keep Richarlison. Sell Solanke, as I didn't vote on that one. Oh, there we go. So, yeah, a lot of people saying, really, that they'd like to sell both. That does not surprise me, and I'm sure it doesn't surprise any of you on the panel either. But for now, let's progress, because a name that I certainly didn't expect to pop up, did you, is the question, in terms of players we're linked to, was Nicholas Jackson. Alfie, I'll come to you first. I think your face says it all. How do you feel about this? I mean, ultimately, it has been shut down for now anyway by the likes of Alistair Gold via Football London. Incredibly reliable when it comes to Tottenham. Say, Tottenham are not exploring a move for Jackson. But if that was to change, or to picked up later this window or in January, is that something you would be interested in, or would you be against it?
I don't know, At first, I thought, won't mind it. Then I thought on it and thought, no, I don't want it. But now I'm thinking about it again. I don't think I'd hate it. I think it'd be more the money side of things. I think if we got a good fee for him, I wouldn't be mad about it, if that makes sense. I mean, he's Premier League proven, which I know some fans like, some don't. Obviously played for Chelsea. I think his best season was 14 goals for them. I think it was his first year, I'm pretty sure. So he's capable of scoring in the Premier League. I think I'd be all right with it. I think if we got a good deal for him in terms of the monetary side, I wouldn't mind it, to be honest. But it has to be less than 50, I think, then I'd be all right with it. But I don't know how much he was asking for, to be honest. It probably would have been higher than that, I'm pretty sure. But if it was less than 50, I'd have been happy with it, I think.
So on the 4th of August, so a couple of days ago now, so we had the first news I'd heard of anyway, I think the majority of us, Kieran Gill, who's the football reporter for the Daily Mail, reported for the Daily Mail, saying that Tottenham are interested in Nicholas Jackson. Chelsea striker is also admired by Aston Villa and many other clubs. Chelsea's valuation is 65 million. So
that was it, 65.
I'm feeling it. It's a lot.
Yeah,
It's an awful lot.
that's too
then I
much.
had to go saying that Spurs are not expected to explore any move for Nicholas Jackson. But
I mean, based on that valuation, no, because you probably get Osherman for something similar to that price, like 65, 70 million maybe. So I think if it's Victor Osherman or Nicholas Jackson, I'm taking Victor Osherman every day of the week. So yeah, if for a similar amount of money, you can probably get Victor Osherman. So yeah, on that, no. Then if it's 65 million.
Okay. Alfie, thank you very much for kickstarting the Nicholas Jackson discussion. Ian, can I come to you? Nicholas Jackson, this is not something we've spoken about, to my knowledge anyway, on the podcast before, unless Tottenham have played Chelsea. How do you feel about this? Because I looked at it and thought, oh, God, no, particularly for the price. But, a lot of people will highlight, Premier League experience. As Alfie said, that's not everything. And some people do go on about it too much. But his movement's good. He's got a lot of pace, but his finishing isn't there. So is this something that Tottenham should be exploring or should be avoiding?
I'm a no, although I think there's a player there. I think at some point he might go somewhere and find his confidence and start banging in goals. I mean, you look at that, I think it finished 4-1 game when we had 2 off, that he probably should have had 6 that. Now, I think he got a hat-trick in the end, but he could have had 6 or 7. That, I think, will be the problem, Harry, if I'm honest. I think that we've got a misfiring striker in Richarlison. We've got a misfiring striker in Solanke. To risk another 60 million, having 180 million pounds worth of misfiring strikers is just too big a risk. Although, as I say, I think he could go somewhere, maybe somewhere a little bit less prominent, and really start knocking in a lot of goals. But I wouldn't, if it were my money, I wouldn't be taking the risk with Jackson at all. I think we can do better for the money.
Ian, thank you. I appreciate your honesty there. Dustin, can I come to you to talk about Nicholas Jackson? I believe you've also got some data to bring to us.
Yeah, I think that with Nicholas Jackson, it's kind of a tricky scenario because we tend to have an impression of players based on their time in the Premier League, and if they didn't do well in their time in the Premier League and they go overseas and improve, it's very hard to go, oh yeah, but they never made it in the league, so they're not really that good. You could say the same about Ademola Lookman, for example, right? But maybe if we had signed him last season, in the winter window, we might not have come as close to relegation as we did. So the interesting part about Nicholas Jackson is that it seems that his numbers and it seems that his profile kind of fit the mold that we're looking for, and our top target was Troopy before he got injured, so that's why I keep putting him there as a comparison. But I think that there's Bundesliga tax as well, which is you can do it in the Bundesliga, you can do it in a team that has Kane taking up all the attention, and you only get 8 goals. I think one of the biggest criticisms, which is well-founded for Nicholas Jackson, is that he needs a lot of chances to score a goal. And we've come from 2 seasons of, or rather last season, one of the biggest problems we had was creating, if not enough chances for our strikers to score. So you could argue that he is well known for missing sitters, and it could be because he gets himself in attacking positions so often that his misses become a lot more obvious because he has good movement and he always arrives in a dangerous position. But at some level, you need to be a bit more clinical, and I think that if you're playing in Bayern in a team in a league where you dominate the other teams in that league, you have Harry Kane as the other striker, and you're still only getting 8 goals, that means that you need a lot of space, you need very, very good service, and you're still only getting single-digit goals. So I don't see it as the best option. I think that he may become a better player, but I think that given the way that we're signing at the moment, we're signing for good now, not in a few seasons.
Absolutely that. Dustin, thank you very, very much. Jack, can I come to you? So comment here from Lib Gaming YouTube who says, as we discussed in private, Harry, he's a 45 to 50 million pound maximum striker. He has elite hold-up play and link up, but his final third decisions leave a lot to be desired. He says rightly that he's a Chelsea fan. I just want to say that it was lovely to catch up with you and talk privately about Nicholas Jackson. And a lot of Chelsea fans aren't too sure, that they're not very happy with his finishing. And if you look at some of the training videos from this week as well, I mean, he missed an awful lot. He shouldn't go off everything, don't get me wrong, but it didn't look very, very good. Not in the best of ways at the moment, Jackson, in pre-season or training. Jack, how do you feel about this? Because we have talked about Nicholas Jackson, not necessarily in the sense that we expect him to be joining Tottenham, but when I asked you to think outside the box for strikers a little while ago, we did mention him. How do you feel in this moment, though, now? Of course, you've got data up on screen comparing him to Krupi. I assume that the majority, if not all, of Spurs fans would take Krupi over Jackson, but probably neither are an option this window. But if Jackson was available, he was an option, or something they picked up later, would it interest you, or do you think we should be avoiding Jack, particularly for a valuation of 65 million?
I mean, I think I would probably echo a couple of the comments that have already been said. There's a lot. The striker window is not massive at this moment in time. There is obviously a few players that you can get on free transfers. Obviously free transfers may be completely free. You've got agent bonuses, them sign on bonuses, all the add-ons, etc., etc. But there are a few names that are out there at the moment for that sort of purpose. So if Spurs wanted to save money and paying for a striker after paying what I describe as a whole cargo worth for the midfield and defence, then that's obviously one option. The other option that we was really hopeful for was Krupi. Now, with his injury, that set us back in who we're looking at. And it's unfortunate because that was definitely a player that I could easily see in a Spurs shirt, and I'd love to see in a Spurs shirt, especially with the season that he just come off of for Bournemouth, especially helping them get into a European trophy spot for next season. Now we had all the talks of Osimhen. We're still having the talks of GAKPO. Personally, would not put GAKPO as number 9, especially in striker format. I'd rather him on the left, so we have that left-hand side covered, apart from just Tell and Odegaard, who are both still very young players. So Osimhen was on the cards. Now, Osimhen's going to be probably about 65 to 70. And Nicholas Jackson, without the add-ons, is 65. So it's also going to be around the same sort of price range for both of these players. But if you look at both of their career goals and how many goals they have played, games that they've played as in terms of goals, Osimhen's numbers are a lot different to what Jackson's numbers are. Now, obviously, Alfie said his best season was his first season for Chelsea, which was 14 goals and 8 assists. He'd obviously had a little bit of a falling off the season before last. And then last season, he got 8 goals on his loan spell from Bayern. He's quite tall. He's lengthy. So him running around on the pitch, getting over to the wingers and the midfielders would be quite easy for him. He has got a bit of physicality to him as well, so I think he definitely could hold up the play when the ball gets released to him, to also create chances, not just for himself but for other players on the pitch as well as that. Now, I think when we first spoke about it, I don't know if I was very keen, but I think I'm more in the basis now of are Spurs getting desperate because we can't sign a striker that everyone is crying out for and every fan base wants to see, and we're just going to go for the next sort of available-ish option in Nicholas Jackson. I think with Nicholas Jackson, with the right training under De Zerbi and the right encouragement and the right way about things, he could be better than the striker options that we actually currently have, I think. And so 100% with Osimhen and a lot of other players that we could probably list off. Maybe Vlahovic could be an option because he's still a free agent. And for De Zerbi's team, if he wants rough and ready players, I don't know how much of a target Dybala would be as a free agent to him either, especially him being 32 years old and a free agent currently. And I think we all remember the saga of us being very, very heavily linked to him before he made his move to Juventus a few years back. So could we explore that move again? I don't know. I think that would be desperate times calling for desperate measures if he went for someone who is completely on a free. Look, I like his numbers. I like who he is. He's still trying to make the best out of everything. You can't just take a couple of videos and make a massive comment on it, because there's loads of, well, I can't even make an excuse for him, to be honest with you. All the things about pre-season is about getting better than what you was the last season. That's how I see it. You want to be better than what you was last season, and we definitely want to be better than what we was last season, which is why De Zerbi's come in and made all these transfer signings to make us better than what we was. Can I see Nicholas Jackson fitting into that team? Personally, I can, because because playing a striker that comes back down to the pitch for the midfield to create option, then ping it over to the wingers for them to to run back in, because he's created that space where everyone's being dragged towards him, and we know he's got the quickness on his feet and the lengthiness against most defenders to be able to get past and run up that way. The only thing that will be concerning me is if he's missing in pre-season and he's not at a high scoring level really for the club that he's already at. Is that going to be a major concern when we bring him over? But it also depends if he's happy at the club. If he's happy where he is and Xavi Alonso sees him, I'm going to burp there, in his plans, then there's not much to explore there. But I think if Xavi Alonso isn't happy and he wants to get money out of him and then bring someone else over, then that could be a window for us to say, look, he's dead on going. Xavi doesn't want him. If we can't get Osimhen, and Osimhen is not fixed on coming over to the Premier League and obviously adding more to his numbers that have already accumulated to about 201 goal contributions, then that's probably another option that we have. But I think we just need to wait and see. I think if it's going to be the case that Nicholas Jackson is going to be on the cards, obviously you see a lot of talk saying that there's been nothing discussed with it, and Spurs aren't really seeing it as an option, from loads of things that I can see. But I think if we get towards the end of the window and we haven't actually signed a dead-on striker, that's probably going to be the route we go down. And if it's not him, it will probably be one of the free agents. And I'd rather have a big name talent come in now and get it done sorted, which is obviously what De Zerbi wants, than going for, dare I say, like when you're in a pub and you go on last orders. It's the last pick of the drinks, the last one you ever have in, and then it's done. That's it.
I hear you.
So
yeah, I see what you mean. In terms of if we get desperate, end of the window, something is better than nothing. I think you make a very good point there, and I like the analysis. I like the comparisons as well, Jack. Thank you very, very much. Dustin, can I move to this chart up on screen of Victor Osimhen and Dusan Vlahovic? Talk to me about the comparison between the two, and if Spurs are going to go for one, who would you rather go for? We look at the data here, but also your own opinion. Do you have a preference if it was out for two?
I think this is one of those scenarios where even though I always put on charts and have a lot of data, this is when data doesn't tell the full story. And if you look at how Vlahovic and Osimhen play, you see that Vlahovic is not the best finisher. I feel like he needs a lot of chances to score, and I also question kind of whether his dominance in Serie A will necessarily transmit to the league. Whereas for Osimhen, I feel that he's just a beast, and even if he hasn't played in the Premier League, a lot of the time when I look at strikers and how they play in other leagues, I question whether they have the physicality to play in the Premier League. But Osimhen is an exception where I feel that he just bullies defenders wherever he goes, and it's not just purely physicality, but it's also kind of intelligence. It's kind of the way he finishes, the way that he moves. So it's one of the rare exceptions where I feel that for a player that's never played in the Premier League, I feel that Osimhen would come in, and I'm not saying that he's necessarily better than Haaland, but he's very much in the similar kind of archetype where he would come in, have the pace and power to just dominate a lot of defenders and give them problems.
Dustin, thank you very, very much. I don't know about any of you guys, but I certainly like Tom to say just one Washerman and Vlahovic. I just don't see it happening. And in this moment, anyway, because I don't see both our strikers leaving. And if they don't, I can't see a certain striker. I think you're at that kind of crossroads, if you like, at that blockage at the moment where there is no movement. Before we shift the conversation from the striker conversation, which we're having and have had for a little while, we will be talking wingers in just a second. But Alfie, can I come to you before we do move on to answer a comment in the YouTube chat? And a very good one. Ivan Toney, maybe. If not, Osherman is the comment here before we have this discussion. What do you think about the idea of Ivan Toney? Of course, he made the England World Cup squad, hardly got a minute, not much involvement or contribution from him in either a positive or negative way. Would you be open to that? Of course, he's at Saudi at the moment.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Ivan Toney's got the Prem experience. Obviously, it's not everything, but he's done it in the league at I'm not going to say small. Well, it is a smaller club. Let's be honest. He done it at a smaller club, capable of a 15+ goal season in the Premier League. I don't have the stats to hand, so if you want to get another chat up, that'd be fantastic. But I think he has a presence on the pitch, Ivan Toney. Like he's got. I hate the word aura, to be honest, but I'm going to use it as a bit of an aura on the pitch, which I think a lot of players would love to have on that pitch. He gives a bit of a leader vibe off, especially you want that at the top of the pitch. Has his time in Saudi maybe, kind of deteriorated his game? I don't know. It's obviously less competitive, in my opinion. But I think Ivan Toney would be open to a move back to the Premier League, especially a top Premier League club. And I think we could be the perfect place for him, to be fair. So I'd take him over Nicholas Jackson, I think. Absolutely.
I think most would.
I think, yeah. I mean, but I think I think top of that list is Osherman for me. But Ivan Toney probably second or third. I think maybe Vlahovic ahead of him potentially. But yeah, definitely a top 3 contender. Absolutely.
Alfie, thank you very, very much. Let's move on then the conversation because we'll talk about wingers. We've got quite a bit on this. So what do we know?
Sorry. I just have one more note on Osman before we move on.
Yeah, of course. Yeah. Go for it.
Yeah. So basically, I'm in a chat with someone who basically lives in Turkey, and he was saying that the thing about Osman is that one of the concerns you may have is kind of like how he is as a player, and the thing about Turkey is that players that go there, if they go out and party and everything, it's kind of like acceptable, and fans don't really get on their back about it. The interesting thing is that Osman has been super disciplined in Turkey, and he's never like in the tabloids or anything being pictured partying or anything like that. So despite the fact that he's playing in the Turkish league, it seems that he looks after himself, takes care of his body, doesn't go out drinking, doesn't go out partying. He's like super professional. And the other part is that there's also drama in Galatasaray at the moment, because what happened is that Icardi has left and they were going to give his shirt to Osman, but the Galatasaray ultras like, Icardi is our legend and we're not giving his shirt to him. So Osman's feeling slighted by the Galatasaray fans, and there's drama around the club not paying his taxes and then his bank account getting frozen as a result. So Osman, there is a push factor. It's not just he's passively staying at Galatasaray and he'll look at offers. He is unsettled at Galatasaray at the moment, so there is a real opportunity. He may even take a pay cut to leave, because it's starting to look like his position there isn't as comfortable as it was, in the previous seasons.
That's interesting. I didn't know the extent of that. I knew there was issues with Galatasaray, but I didn't know it affected directly Victor Osherman. Dustin, thank you very, very much.
In fact, he was offered the captaincy in one of the friendlies, and I think you've seen that video where a player is going off and wants to give him the armband, and he's like, "Nah, I don't want it," and that's created more drama as well.
Yeah. I didn't think too much of it, but yeah, you're right. Makes you think, makes you wonder. You never know. I won't get people's hopes up for those that do want him. Dustin, thank you, and thank you to everyone. But for now, in terms of winger news, Italian journalist Fabrizio Romano saying that Pedro Neto is on Tottenham's list as a backup option if they fail to sign Savinho. Interesting. So let's have the discussion. And I was quite brutal in the intro, and I'm going to be brutal again. Ian, I'll come to you. Has Tottenham swapped this obsession with Chelsea managers? We've talked about some of them there. Mourinho, Conte, Villas-Boas. Are they swapped that now for obsession with Chelsea players? I'm thinking Timo Werner, Dominic Solanke, people forget about that, Conor Gallagher. now linked to Pedro Neto and Nicholas Jackson. Is it fair to make the point that we're again seem to be raiding Chelsea and often not the best they've got? Let's just say, because that's what a lot of people have been saying to me. So, what do you make of that, or do you think that's just complete nonsense and that's not the way to look at it?
He's not really done it at Chelsea, has he? And
you look good at Wolves, very good at Wolves.
Well, I was just going to say, he looked the absolute dogs, what's-its at Wolves. And it might be that Chelsea's just not the right fit for him. I mean, they chop and change players, they chop and change managers, and maybe he's another one that needs to be loved. He's another one. There's a player there. The Savinho thing is now boring me, to be honest with you. I understand maybe City don't want to let him go, and it might be one that drags to the window.
Should we move on from it, though, Ian? That's my question to you. You're right to say you're bored of it. Should Tottenham move on now, or is it just a patience and waiting?
Well, yeah, and to some extent, we sit here in blissful ignorance. The ITKs sometimes don't know any more than we do, sometimes less. We've had two things. We had De Zerbi's comment in Australia about, there's a bomber coming imminently. Well, that's not come imminently. And then Ali Gold, who I assume is given inside information strictly off the record, says they're working on something very, very big. And I suspect that one of the reasons that things aren't happening as quickly as we want on every front, one of the reasons is there is clearly something that they are working on. Someone in the chat mentioned, is MGW the bomber? Well, if there you go, perfect. Well, it has occurred to me for a while because it's gone quiet on the Bergvall front as well. Are they working on some sort of deal that takes Bergvall to the City ground and Morgan Gibbs-White to Tottenham? I might be so wide of the mark there, but that appears to be a deal that might make a lot of sense. Although I appreciate Forest have sold Anderson, so may not need the money and might not want to weaken their midfield even further. But that is a deal that would make a lot of sense. I mean, are we trying to persuade Harry Kane to come back? And if we are, and I have no idea, Phil King, who has hosted your show, Harry, thinks all his information from Germany is that no, Harry is just on holiday and is signing his new Bayern contract when he comes back. So,
just to chip in, the only thing that makes me think that none of those things will happen, and I hope you're right with both, particularly Harry Kane, actually. But the reason I think no is because De Zerbi watered down, in my view anyway, the next day when he come out, I think instructed by the club, saying that bomber, it means different. In Italian, it means he's talking about what we have done and saying that, we need something big to happen. So instead of saying that something big is going to happen, he now really kind of played it in terms of saying something big needs to happen before the end of the window. It's just like shifting tone,
in isolation, Harry.
Italian.
Sorry, I've interrupted you. Sorry, Harry. In isolation, I would agree with you, but you have to look at it, in my view, in the context of what Ali Gold said, that they're working on something very, very big. So I think it's difficult to say yes to this player, no to that player, without us knowing exactly what we're looking on. I actually quite like, you're going to talk about GAKPO. I quite like GAKPO, and he's got a lot of goals in him. I think Neto's a player, given the right environment, has still got an awful lot to give, and he's not shown it at Chelsea yet. But then I think he needs to be playing more than he is, and that would help him enormously. I wouldn't be upset if we went for Neto at all.
Okay, Ian, thank you very, very much. From you can't go off it completely, let me just be clear, but going off Spurs fan reaction on social media, people looks like majority, if not all, would take Savinho over Pedro Neto. Do you agree with that? Do you have a different opinion? I asked not only the panel, but people listening. Do let us know your thoughts if it comes down to one or the other. But if it was both, would you be happy with that? Just them two before the end of the window. Dustin, if it was, either Pedro Neto or Savinho, some reports suggesting that, which way would you lean?
I'm not sure. Mm, personally, I'm not excited about either of these two options. I guess if I had to choose between the two, I just don't see anything Savinho has done. I mean, he had a good first season and he was decent in Getafe, but like it just doesn't feel like he's necessarily the profile that De Zerbi needs. Because from my perspective, it seems that the preferable profile is a winger that cuts inside, because our fullbacks are providing width, right? And so if it's a winger that cuts inside, like a Rafa Leao or a Nico Williams fits better. And I don't see why we aren't a lot more into Nico Williams, for example. So from my perspective, I'm not terribly excited about either of these two options. And if I had a choice, I'd be going for Nico Williams.
Okay, Dustin, thank you very, very much. It'll be interesting if anything happens there, but that's gone very quiet. I heard a little bit, didn't you, at the start of the window. Jack, just briefly before we progress on to Cody Gakpo, if it's down to Savinho or Neto, any preference for you there? It feels like the fan base, Jack, the majority of them want Savinho. Are you personally in that camp, or are you getting a little bit tired of the fact that this is dragging on and maybe think we should look elsewhere, with Neto being one of those options?
I mean, we've been on the whole Savinho bandwagon for about 2 years now, and I think I think I'm the same as he. I'm getting completely sick of it as well. And it's like they're saying they say they want a replacement for Savinho. Oh, I didn't mean to do that. They're saying they want a replacement for Savinho, but I think during December and also giving a new contract to they're pretty much their boyhood teenager. Of Phil Foden, I think they've already solidified who their replacement is, especially when they brought in Semenyo.
Grealish coming back, from the loan at Everton.
And you've also got Grealish
back.
coming back, and you've got Doku who's got a massive contract extension until 2031, I think. So it's like, where do you need the replacement when you have all of these players at your disposal? Now, Maresca's going into this season with Guardiola's team that he has built over the last 10 years. Yes, he's lost a few players, including Bernardo Silva and John Stones, but he's still got an amazing team there. Like, I think we all said this when Slot won his first season at Liverpool. We had Klopp's team. Maresca has got Guardiola's team. Now, Semenyo has not always played in Guardiola's team, because they've always had other players that played in front of him, especially with him being only 22 years old. Yes, he's made a handful of appearances. Yes, he's scored a few. Yes, he's got that Brazilian flair, and that's what Guardiola liked. Now he's brought in Semenyo. Savinho's not really going to get used. So, are they trying to say they want to replace essentially their version of Deadwood? I'm not entirely sure. But I think Pedro Neto was definitely firing a lot more at Wolves than he was at Chelsea. He's scored a handful of goals for Chelsea. Don't get me wrong, and he's made some really good contributions for them. But Wolves was definitely some of his best years. Could he still have those years in him? Yes, with the correct training and the correct confidence boosting and minute by minute games, he could easily have that. He could easily still have that again. And I don't think. Excuse me again. I don't know if Xabi Alonso is going to completely bring that out of him entirely. Whereas De Zerbi is definitely doing something to this team where it's bringing out a massive confidence boost. And obviously we saw that against Chelsea the other day. With our 2-1 win. Apart from Danzo's red card, we don't talk about it. It didn't happen. But I think with how long Savinho's taken, I don't want to say stop it, because stop with it, because
there are a lot of winger options out there, isn't there? Would you agree with me that it's a dead striker market, but an active winger market?
Yeah, there's a very active winger market. I mean, if I had my way, well, everyone knows Vinicius Junior has now been taken off the market, so I can't even speculate to say him at any point whatsoever. Unfortunately, Arsenal fan. But No, I think there's still a massive winger market. I mean, Rafael Leao got, from what I heard, got offered to Leeds the other day. Like, that's how desperate at AC Milan want him gone. Now, I don't get why we haven't considered him. Like, again, he's not on par with Osimhen in terms of all the goal contributions, but he is in the physicality, and he isn't in how tall he is, and he is with his pace. He has those same sort of attributes that he could easily bring over to the Premier League, like Osimhen can. Every team that he's gone to, he's managed to outmuscle a lot of very beastly and big defenders, physical wise. So Leao could also have that in his locker. I don't get why we're not just going for a player that wants out and the team want him out. Like, are we doing it because he's got a bit too? Are we not going for him because he's got a bit too much ego because he had his name lit up in headlines for the last 2 years? I don't know. I don't know if De Zerbi wants that sort of player ego on the team where he wants to just. But at the same time, if you want to be a team that's dominating the Premier League and wants to fight for titles and fight for trophies, we need to bring in players that have a little bit of selfishness when they know they are good at the game. And Leao and Osimhen are two of those players that we can get in. But apart from going completely throw off topic, in regards with Pedro Neto and Savinho, I think because Savinho is taking so long, and I don't know what Pedro Neto wants to do. I think there's so many options that we can have, and there's so many names that I can throw out. I mean, Nusa is one of the bigger names that I want to throw out. Like, he's a very, very talented kid, and he would be what I would think is a perfect fit in this team. I mean, from what Dustin's showing you there, look how much of a difference between Rafael Leao and Nusa is in terms of shots on target, progressive carries, and his TX vibe progressive carries. And even touched in the opponent's box. Like, he outdoes him by over 16. So there's another very good winger that we can go for. It's just we need to put money on the table and actually go in for players like this, like we already have done throughout this whole window.
Jack, to throw another name at you, and thank you for that. Comment here from Gaming YouTube says, think Grealish would be worth a pump for you lot if you can get him for under 50 million. Thoughts on Jack Grealish and the prospect of coming to Tottenham? Would you be interested?
I mean, he had an amazing season with Aston Villa, bringing him back up into the Prem, and that warranted his 100 mil transfer to Man City, not only to help Aston Villa out, but also because obviously City want to be the name of the highest, the people to bid the highest on any English player whatsoever. So that's one reason. I mean, I think he was really good at Everton. I think he definitely brought us some spirits and was definitely playing for the badge where he knew he wouldn't be able to fit at Man City, especially with Doku coming in. Now, if we go in for Grealish, who is now a Man City player again, are they going to want to replace him? Because they already want to find a replacement for selling Savinho.
Would they sell him for less than half of what they signed him for?
No, I don't think they will.
Good look for them.
I think with
he has been injured though. To be fair, it's going to be difficult
has.
for them to get anything like 70, 80. They're going to really struggle, I think, to get that.
Yeah, exactly. Which is obviously a reason why Krupi is now staying at Bournemouth. It's going to be it was a lot harder for them to get the money that he could easily be worth out of us because he's now injured, and it'll be the exact same with Grealish. There's so many options that you can go from. There's so many options that you can choose from. There's so many names you can throw out. Unlike obviously the striker positions. Would I take a punt at Grealish for the experience? Probably. He'd definitely be a very good winger role model for Matisse Tell and Odebear. So there's definitely one reason why I'd do that. I mean, it's the whole reason why Chelsea have gone and bought Jordan Henderson. I doubt he's ever going to bloody play for them, but he's there as an experienced player and as a mentor to all the younger players, and also with Danny Welbeck in regards to João Pedro and some of the other strikers that they have. That's the whole reason why they've done it, really. And because they were just buying too many kids where they've now got so many charges that they can't buy anyone else in the next two transfer seasons. Transfer windows, should I say. But yeah, it's very difficult when we've gone so far into this where we have bought all the players that we wanted, and now in the positions where we really need it, we are very hell bent over one player and not exploring all of these massive amount of options that we can explore. I don't get why we're so hell bent on Savinho when it's taken. Well, we've still got a couple of weeks left of this transfer window, but
Well, I feel for him as well,
I
because
don't
I
want
think
to
when it gets
spend all
over the
these
line, people are going to appreciate it, but it's not going to feel like it would have done maybe when we were first linked to him. That
Yeah,
hype,
I mean,
it's going, isn't it?
yeah, I
It's
mean,
getting into Leandro Damião territory.
There you go. See, taking the words right out of my mouth. Look, when we was linked with Tonali, everyone was like, "Oh, it's going to be too much for us. We're not going to go in for that." Bang, was done. 24 hours after
It's
Fernandes.
true, it's true.
Why can't we get those
Well,
sort
if
of
it's City
transfer
being
deals
difficult,
done
then you move
this?
on, don't you? If it's them being
Yeah,
difficult, it's not
I
ideal,
don't
but
get. Yeah, it confuses me why they're being so difficult when they have so many players that play in his position. It's so hard to try and fathom why they're trying to look for a replacement after saying when he comes back from the World Cup, we'll discuss and we'll get it and it will be sorted. Now it's we wanted to now revise it from whatever it was to now more because the sale of Somerville made it look a bit more money. But everyone's got to realise that Saudi money, they've got more money than sense. So they'll buy whatever player for whatever amount. So we can't go off of what they're paying for younger players like Somerville when it comes to Premier League players and moving to another Premier League club. But they're not even looking at replacements. That's the thing. I've not seen one thing on Twitter or on any sort of social media platform where they've been actively looking for another winger. I could be looking in the completely wrong places where I haven't seen it. I don't know. I'm not a Man City fan. I'm not up to date with what they do. But from what I can see, and the reason why it's taken so long, clearly probably points to the obvious that they're not really looking hard enough. But I personally like to see us move on with it and get through this get through this transfer window with at least either with the three signings that De Zerbi wants, whether it be one striker, two wingers, or a winger and two strikers. So we have and if Richarlison goes, and we've got three strikers there to compete with each other and get into full finishing mode. I don't know what's going to happen, but I just think the Semenyo thing, it's so old and dried out after the last 2 years that I'm just getting sick of it going from talking stages to advanced talking stages to we might have agreed a fee.
maybe
now
soon.
backtracking to advanced talking stages again. Maybe soon. I don't know.
Maybe.
I've been waiting for the next season of Jack Reacher to come out for probably about almost a year, and that's taken half the time to come out than Savinho's deal has to be for Tottenham. So. It's I'm ranting over it and getting annoyed over it.
It's all right. We'll
come back.
We'll come back to this in future episodes because it's something that we'll probably be talking about. I'm sure again.
I just wanted to add something about Grealish. I think there are two reasons that would actually be a good deal. One is that it feels like he fits Spurs the way James Maddison did. They're just that kind of character, the kind of flair player, the kind of maverick that we are known for signing. And the other is that homegrown status, and the other is that he's the right age profile, so it doesn't block, Mikey Moore or the Bear Tell and everything. So it's for those three reasons, I think that's actually a good deal.
Okay, thank you very, very much. Before I come to Alfie, Ian, commentary first. Comment here from Robbie says, sign Krupi despite his short-term injury. And when Robbie says short-term injury, it's expected to be 3 to 4 months, just so people get it in their head that more than likely it's Christmas time before he's really involved into a high level, if not later than that. Ian, would you still sign Krupi, even let's say, 85, 90 million, even though he's injured? Is it worth it?
No, and it's not an option. And I think this is something I've seen all over social media. He's only out for 3 or 4 months. Sign him anyway. It's potentially attractive, but there's a real reason why this can never happen, and that is the player is injured. He cannot pass a medical. You can't insure him. So For example, when Kulusevski was out for a knock with a slight knock 15 months ago, you never ever know with a player whether, you know, he's actually back playing by the end of October, or worse, he's not playing October next year because something's happened and the injury is worse than you thought, or he picks up another injury in training or something like that. You cannot insure the player, and therefore you cannot insure the transfer fee. And no business in its right mind is going to risk signing somebody which might end up being a total loss if, God forbid, the injury turned out to be serious. So superficially attractive, but no, unfortunately, can't go near Krupi. Love to. He was the absolute number one choice for me to come as a striker. I think he's got a massive ceiling, but unfortunately, no, it's a real no-no.
Okay, and you're absolutely right. You can't pass medical if you're injured. We've seen that with lots of players. Palace, when they tried to move on, Mateta had a little bit of a knee injury going over there. He simply didn't pass his medical, and that's why still a Palace player. Just one of many examples. So you're right. People saying sign Krupi. Maybe a pre-agreement, I don't know, could be done, but it's certainly very unlikely for anything to happen there. And that applies to any club that would want to sign Krupi. But Alfie, can I come to you on Cody Gakpo? Because we've got big news while we've been on air. SZY exclusive reporting that Cody Gakpo does not intend to stay at Liverpool beyond this summer. Repeat, does not intend to stay at Liverpool beyond this summer window. Liverpool are open to a sale once they sign an attacker. You hear that, don't you, with Man City with Savinho, that, okay, maybe, but once they sign an attacker. But this is interesting. Gakpo wants to join Spurs. The main challenge will be agreeing a fee, not personal terms, contrary to what we heard reported before. Alfie, I ask you as someone that, to put it very mildly, to put it very kindly, is not keen on Cody Gakpo. Dramatic understatement, I know. How do you feel about this? Are you warming even just slightly to the idea of Cody Gakpo potentially being a Tottenham player?
My worst nightmare. No, I'm joking. I've got to say my worst nightmare is coming true. But I mean, the entire Savinho thing. You saw my Twitter post, I think today or yesterday, about maybe walking away, and I then look at our options. I didn't think of Jack Grealish, to be fair. And Dustin, I think what you said was bang on about his age profile, being homegrown, you know, being a good mentor to our younger wingers. I wouldn't mind Jack Grealish actually at a good price. But moving back to Cody Gakpo, it's a 72 million thing for me. It's too much. I just think it's too much for Cody Gakpo, to be honest. I know people say he scores goals, but his best season in the Premier League is, I think, 10 goals. Something wrong. Yeah, his best season goal scoring wise was 9 goals, 4 assists. 9 goals, 6 assists last season, I believe. It might have been the year before. Let me check. Sorry. In 24-25, he scored 10 goals, 4 assists. That's basically Richarlison. I mean, he's cost £20 million. So it worries me that the price tag is 72 million. So I'm still not there, to be honest, with Cody Gakpo. But I was here before. Oh, there we go. I was here before. I'm probably like here now. Like I'm slowly creeping up, I think, on the idea.
Good.
It's
I'm glad
just
to know
price.
having an influence.
Yeah, absolutely,
questions
Harry.
have an influence.
The Colin Wani one, definitely. I think that might be the turning point, to be fair. But yeah, I think if the price is good, I don't mind it. But again, personally, I don't want to move away from Savinho, to be honest, because I know Jack said he didn't see anything about Man City replacements. Pedro Neto has actually been linked to Man City, and so has Mayenda too. So it's either going to be a play out like Neto goes to Man City, we get Savinho, or other way around. I don't know.
I completely forgot about Pedro Neto being linked to Man City. I had seen that, and my brain just
fine.
clicked back into gear. I do apologise. I have seen it.
No.
I'm definitely looking at Man City. Don't know why I didn't think
It'd be
of it.
interesting, though. It'd be interesting because we signed Savinho, then they signed Neto as a replacement. It could be kind of a waiting game. You know, the dominoes. Who's pushing that first domino? And once it goes, boom, it's gone. And it could work with a lot of things. If you see there's 3 or 4 clubs that are kind of interested in each other's players, not direct links, but potentially you're just starting to hear a few rumours that other clubs. You see it with Gakpo as well, 1 or 2 may be interesting.
And just to touch on Pedro Neto, I actually won't mind the Pedro Neto sign, and I think Ian put it bang on. He's a player that needs to be loved. So again, I think would be a good signing. But going back to Cody Gakpo, not massively keen, but we'll just see what happens, to be honest.
Alfie, I assume you take Pedro Neto over Gakpo, judging by your previous comments.
Yes, I would.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And
I
all
think
I know we've done hypotheticals, right, and some really extreme examples.
there we go.
Would you? No. I've got another one. Don't worry. No, I'll be kind for this one. I was going to say, out of everyone you've seen us linked to, since the last episode and throughout the summer, is there anybody you would take, like you'd had Gakpo, you take over them? Basically, is my
So
question.
who I would choose Gakpo over, essentially.
Yeah. Is there anybody? We know we've discussed extremes, but they're not going to happen, are they? But
Winger wise, so we've been linked with Nusa. I'm taking Nusa, Schneiderlup. I'm taking Neto, Savinho. I'll probably
Marmoush.
Who? Sorry,
Marmoush.
I'm taking Marmoush. Yeah, I don't think there is, to be honest. Liao, I'm taking Gakpo over Liao, I think. I just don't like. Right, so for me, Liao's a fantastic footballer. Yeah, I get it, completely fine. But off the pitch, his attitude's a problem, and he's slightly controversial. I think we've all seen the Instagram story. So for me, that wouldn't go down well in England. I think the media will be on him all the time because of that, and I don't think he'd perform. That's my only concern. But if we're talking on the pitch, I'm probably taking Liao over Gakpo, but everything else externally, I'm taking Gakpo over Liao. So that's the only player I'd say, probably Liao.
Alfie, thank you very, very much. Robbie says, I have a feeling De Zerbi will go for an established player as a winger. Grealish is one that I've mentioned at the start of the window. You did, Robbie, on here. You're right. You did. Absolutely. Full credit to you for that. You were the first to mention. Actually, before, I think we played the last game of the season, you were on about Grealish, actually, because it was Everton. I remember you mentioning that. You're absolutely right. He said he think it'd be a better fit than Savinho. Wow, it's Harry. Yeah, it's Harry. Communist Spurs says we should go all out for Osherman. If we can't, we need to go for other options. He also goes on to say, Communist Spurs, then offer Bergval to Forest plus cash for Morgan Gibbs-White. That's been discussed. Then rival United for Sarr and other Pat Matter Sarr and 40 million. Okay, you've thrown a few things there, which is interesting. I like this comment from Jason Phillips. Very good thinking that Grealish can play left wing and a number 10 if Maddison's not fit. I feel like conversations that are popping up amongst the Spurs fan base now are actually, is a number 10 issue maybe bigger than we thought with Maddison a little knock. Simmer's a long way from returning. Kulusevski still weeks and weeks away. Kudus can play there, but again, still not back. So all of a sudden, maybe is there a little bit more of a demand for a number 10. What we've got here, Morgan Gibbs-White, we need to score 15 goals. I think Neto will only go to City if Savinho goes to Spurs, as I understand. Yes, Dustin, do you want to chip in?
So I think that based on the profiles that we're looking at, I think that there are a couple of attributes that we seem to be looking for. We seem to be looking for players that can shoot from distance, because that's Krupi, that's GAKPO, or players that attract players to them because of the way they carry the ball. Which is Savinho. So I suspect what it is that De Zerbi is looking for players that pull pack defenses out of position, because one of the things that we can establish is that if teams like to press, De Zerbi is built to bypass the press and break them down. But if teams sit deep, then he has to solve a different kind of problem. So I suspect what he's looking for from his front line are basically either line breakers or long shooters, because those are the things that attract defenders in the box out, and that creates spaces that he wants. So I suspect that's kind of like the priority for the signings, which is either a dribbler that will force fouls or pull defenders out, or a long shooter, because those seem to be the profiles that we're looking at. And I think one player we've been linked with that we haven't seen mentioned, but if it looks like we need to possibly do things for the 10 position as well, and maybe even right wing, because if Kudus, we don't know what his fitness is like, then we haven't really talked about Ekliush, which is another player that we were linked with previously, but can play across a few positions in the front three as well.
Great shout, Magnus Ekliush. I'd absolutely love, but it's one that I don't try and think about or discuss too much, because I think he'd be perfect, but I just don't see it happen again. It's a case of you don't want to raise that false hope. But Ekliush, if they get the opportunity, I think Tom should exploit that. Ian, before we move on to Kulusevski, A, being alive, and B, being back in training. Let's talk Cody Gakpo, because I know you wanted to touch on Cody Gakpo. How do you feel about this? You spoke earlier that, you would be not against it, let's just say. You quite like Cody Gakpo. So, talk us through your thinking of that.
I do. And I think he's another one that would benefit if he was playing week in, week out. But he fits the bill, doesn't he? He can play across the line. He can play left. He could play centrally. But he knows where the goal is. I like him. My big reservation is £70 million. And my bigger reservation is if what I'm reading is right, and I do tend to be a little bit skeptical, Harry, about what I read, is we're gonna give Liverpool Jed Spence, and 35 million pounds. And
what do you think of that?
Gakpo in return. I don't think so. I really don't think so. But as I say, I'm a little bit reluctant to over commit on this, because I genuinely think they are working on things, and who the number one target is, I don't know. If GAKPO is or Neto are at the club, or Grealish is at the club on September the 1st, or whenever the transfer deadline is, I'm not going to be unhappy. I think they all take us up a level, but I'm still waiting for that big needle mover, the 20-30, the 20 goal a season man that makes us really compete for top four, because everybody else has got one. And the problem is that's why they're hard to sign. Because the currency of, I may have said this on your show before, the currency of football is goals. And clubs who have goal scorers don't want to sell them. And if they have to sell them, they're selling them at the absolute maximum price that they can get. Maybe there's a deal with, I'm reading, and you read so much crap, that Alvarez and his partner are very friendly with Mr. and Mrs. Conor Gallagher, and that Alvarez is in London at the moment as their guest and what have you, and well, maybe there's a deal to be made for Alvarez.
You never know. You never know.
Absolutely, and a man that don't, I'm not going to stop any man from, women, if there's women watching as well, from dreaming. We don't know, Harry. But if Gakpo comes, I'm not unhappy. But £70 million or Jed Spence and £35 million, no.
Ian, thank you very much. Just a quick show of hands, and I don't think we even see a hand, but I could be wrong about that. Raise your hand if you'd be happy to sell Jed Spence or a swap deal with Gakpo and give Liverpool cash. Raise your hand if that's something you'd be interested in. Okay, so for people watching audio platforms, nobody raised their hand, and I don't think there'd be many at all. If I asked the wider Spurs community, that'd be interested in that. But anyone listening, tell me if I'm wrong. Do you disagree? If you do, there's nothing wrong with that. Would you be happy to sacrifice Jed Spence to ultimately lower the price for Cody Gakpo? Let us know. That's something we'll leave for now, because it's only very, very briefly been mentioned this evening. I think we'll pick this up in a future episode. But tell you something. Not transfer bomber, but a bomber if you ask me. Kulusevski's alive and he's back in training. 452 days since he picked up his rare patellar injury and shed 452 days ago today. He should be okay. The medical team are not too concerned about him. It was just a knock. He'll be back for the next game. Since then, listen to this. Tottenham have sacked 3 managers, with Decky not playing a single minute under either Thomas Frank or Igor Tudor, and yet to play a single minute under Roberto De Zerbi. Alfie, is that the real bomber of this transfer window, that Kulusevski is alive and back in training? He's here.
As the famous Ian Wright said, I can't believe it. Someone said he was dead. Honestly, when I saw that video come out, I thought, oh my God, he's back. And then the Pantacudus, it was just chef's kiss. But yeah, it's nice to see him back. I think that'll do wonders for the squad too in terms of morale. Like seeing him come back, especially after such a devastating injury, such a hard injury to come back to. Obviously, I think a couple of weeks back we talked about it. Obviously, the Swedish doctor tries to be really positive, but he just couldn't be. So it's nice to see that Kulusevski is defying the odds in hopefully making his return to first team action. So yeah, it's a great feeling seeing him back because I don't know about you guys, but I've absolutely missed him. I just think his presence on the pitch is just second to none for us. Do I think he'll be the same player? Probably not. But again, squad morale is the main thing with this team at the moment, so I think it'll be great for them.
Absolutely, Alfie. And I don't know if anyone's seen the video of Kulusevski from training, but it's here. Takes on 6 players. Look, 6 players he takes on and scores. I mean,
What a
we'll have some of that,
baller.
won't we?
What a baller.
Yeah. He's still got it. Not only is he alive, but he's still got it.
My ginger from Sweden, that is.
Absolutely.
Wow.
Dustin, how do you feel watching this video? I mean, Dustin, ultimately, it looks good, doesn't it? You can't got a lot of training, or it's the same with pre-season, but Dustin, it's still got it.
Give me a ginger from Sweden after that.
Indeed, I could talk about how I feel, but that might get you demonetized. But yes, it's great to see him back in training, and not just back in training, but basically balling out and breaking ankles and just leaving people for dead, sending them out for sandwiches and tea while he cuts through all of them. So it is a training session, but you can look at them sliding in. They're not taking it easy on him at all. So if he can do this, if he gets back to his full fitness, I'm just reminded of the interviews with Pep when he's like, Kulusevski, what a player.
I absolutely remember that. By the way, just to confirm, we're not actually monetized. So I'll say it now because I don't want you to say it, but you could have actually strictly got away with it. But let's not maybe use that opportunity. Shouldn't have actually said
But
that.
by the way, don't let Talksport get hands on us because Gabby will be absolutely fuming at this, won't he?
Oh well, yeah. I think
okay. Well,
best friend.
I'll do it. Well, I'll do it then. Kulusevski back in training and cutting through players. I can only get so erect.
Well, I tell you what, that is super impressive from Kulusevski. You just look at the reaction though from the players and also the staff. They're absolutely shocked. So we'll have some of that from Kulusevski. In coming to you on a serious note though, and this is an important question: how important is it with Kulusevski that we're careful with him in terms of reintroducing him when he is back? Careful getting into men's first team training, and then careful eventually getting back on the pitch. You see there, the tackles coming in aren't very careful, but we must be careful because we don't want him to get a setback. That'd be the worst thing, wouldn't it?
100% right, Harry. And I mean, I genuinely worry whether he'll come back at the same level. With the seriousness of what he's had. It might be, he comes back just as strong, but we don't really know what that injury was. I don't even know if he knows what that injury was. A fit Kulusevski is an asset to any team, and particularly one like us that struggled over the last couple of years. I'm not quite sure what his best position is, whether it's central or whether it's an outside right position, or a little bit of play Spencer's led. But I have to tell you, I agree with that 100%, but that's not what I'm being asked about.
That comment, just to chip in, that comment says what Ian's agreeing with, that says play Spence left back. Tell a doggy he never fit, etc.
100% for me. We've still got Robertson there, and Sousa hasn't gone out on loan yet, although I suspect he will. Look, a fit Kulusevski is a massive asset. Massive asset. I fear. I try and keep my glass half full, particularly when I'm doing streams, Harry. But I fear that this injury may be serious. And if you lose 5% at the kind of level we're talking, it's generally fatal. But let's hope he's back. Let's hope he's back. Him and or Kudus playing right. It's central. Kulusevski playing 30 minutes after Kudus has given everything for an hour. That just really fills me with excitement. But I'm gonna just be a little bit cautious. As you say, let's bring him back gently. Let's give him 10-15 minutes here and there. And let's hope November before we see. I think that's probably right, Jason, to be honest with you. I think if we get both of them fully fit, and Kudus maybe by the end of September fully fit, then we'll really be cooking with gas come Christmas.
Absolutely, love it. We'll be cooking. That is for sure. Totally agree with that. So we're going to wrap up in a minute, but just before we do, player I do want to discuss, and that is Ashley Phillips. So Michael Bridge a couple of days ago saying Middlesbrough in advanced talks with Tottenham over a deal for defender Ashley Phillips. Spurs signed centre-back Phillips from Blackburn for £2 million back in 2023. Spurs are now ready to let Phillips leave permanently. Well, Michael Bridge for Sky Sports himself has given an update this morning saying that Middlesbrough agree a deal with Spurs to sign defender Ashley Phillips. £7 million guaranteed. Listen to this. Deal includes 13, I repeat, 13 million in add-ons, plus a 20% sell-on clause and matching rights, bringing the total to a £20 million total package. And he's had his medical today, successful, etc., etc. Alfie, you're nodding, and I understand why. Wow. On this, right? Whether we think about losing Phillips or not, that's an incredible deal, isn't it? Is that one of those where you go incredible business and another phenomenal deal for this club?
I mean, you'd be stupid not to be impressed with that deal. Have you seen the full breakdown of the contract? I don't know if it's true, but it's 7 million fixed, like you said, 3 million if Phillips plays 15 plus games this season, which he probably will. 5 million if Middlesbrough get top 8 in the Championship, and then 5 million if Middlesbrough get promoted any season with Ashley Phillips in the squad, plus a sell-on clause and the matching rates. That is a 10 out of 10 deal. It's a 10 out of 10 deal. And we've raised, is it 90 million with 3 players, I think. Will Lancashire is 20 million, Vuskovic was 52, and then Ashley Phillips was another 20. For 3 players,
40 million, Alfie, for Lancashire and Phillips.
That's still brilliant.
Wow.
I know. So, I mean, if you can look at 90 million or 40 million, it's ridiculous. It's absolutely ridiculous. I made a video on my page saying about it in terms of are Tottenham the best sellers this summer, and I think we are. I can't think of another team that has sold fringe players for that amount of money. It's absolutely ridiculous. So for me, I'm happy with all the deals, to be honest. Obviously, apart from Will Lancashire, but you can't say no to that money, especially for the profile of the players, say still young, not really going to break through. So, yeah, excellent business, cannot fault it.
Okay, Alfie, thank you so much. Jack, coming to you just briefly away from Phillips. 40 million, I said that to Alfie, and I'll say again, 40 million for Lancashire and Phillips. I mean, that's incredible, isn't it? Right. And have we become a good selling club in your eyes this window?
I mean, how I see it is we're getting rid of players that are either not going to make it or they could have made it, but not very much in the way that De Zerbi can see them playing in the club for the next couple of years or so. But look, those 2 players accumulating 40 mil. I can't remember how much we paid for Ashley Phillips back at that point, but when we obviously got him in, and obviously Will Lancashire being one of our academy players, I would like to say that is definitely a decent bit of business. To say the least. I think the Will Lancashire one is definitely a decent bit of business, but this one for Ashley Phillips, given with all the I think it was a 7 mil flat on fee and 13 mil in add-ons. I think it said something ridiculous like that, and then you've got all the other little added extra bits and pieces along with that. I think we've done a decent bit of business. I mean, both of that. I think Will Lancashire did have the sell-on clause. Obviously, we've got sell-on clauses with most of the signings that we've obviously let go this window. And I think all the other bits that we've done is definitely both decent bits of business. So I can say that this is another decent bit of business. I still find it a shame that we haven't seen these players be able to come up into the first team and actually play first team football, because that's pretty much what the academy is there for, you to prove your worth, to be able to get your first team contract and then go through a bit more of a progress before getting into first team. Not every player is going to be like that. So it's always unfortunate to see a player that hasn't progressed in that way, but I'm just happy that both of them are getting regular football. They'll be playing with each other. They know each other. They know how they both work. So there's going to be no love lost between these 2 players, both going to Middlesbrough. So overall, business great. Money for both players, even better. Because that obviously funds the next couple of players that we obviously, another player that we want to obviously get in. And I think in terms of, well, it's great for Middlesbrough as well. Obviously that this is coming from a team that has the money that we have. They're on a bit more of a smaller budget than what we are, and the fact they've gotten both these two very good players from us is a great bit of business from them. So I can say it's well done to Middlesbrough for getting these done, and well done to us for getting the deals and all the other added on extras that we have done to make sure that it's still worth our while for the long term future as well as that. But look, I'm happy for them both to be getting regular football. That's what you want to see for players at your club, and I hope all the best for them both in the season.
Adding on to that as well, I think it's super important that like youth team players kind of like don't get stuck in the Kyle Walker-Peters or Josh Onoma trap where they're just kept here, they don't go out on loan, they don't go out on good loans, and then it stops other youth team prospects from wanting to join the club if they feel that pathways are blocked. And even if the pathway isn't at our club, we'd love for it to be at our club. But the reality is Premier League teams have so much money now that they're not promoting youth team players because of the risks, and they would rather sign players from overseas because they have so much buying power. So the best we can do really is kind of these permanent deals, but having all these clauses that make them similar-ish to loans, where you might sell them, but then they have good sell-on fees. They have first look options. We have first refusals and things like that. So they are permanent deals, which is better for the players' careers. And it also tells youth prospects that you will get to leave, you will get promoted, you will go to a club. We're not going to keep you here and keep you in the reserves playing under 19 football. And then as a result, it improves the pathway for the players. And if they're really good, we can buy them back again. Especially if they're going to Middlesbrough, they're going under Kim Helberg, which is an exciting manager. Maybe their bonuses there tied to being promoted to the Premier League, which makes Middlesbrough more likely to do it because they have Premier League money. Then they're more price insensitive to the bonuses that we'll give. So that all in all, I think that as a sale, that is a very good one.
Dustin, beautifully explained. I agree with you, particularly on that sale as well. I think you're spot on, and we've become a really good selling club. And do you know what? Credit to the club for that. Criticise them where I felt it's needed. I think. Do you know what? And
clip them up,
comes as well.
Clip them out and show that. Clip them out and show that to Gabby and everyone Lahore. That's why we can do it.
Yeah, I don't think. Well, we can get Gabby on here. I mean, that'd be a miracle because I'll tell him what I think. I think
That'll be unbelievable.
It's delusion or it's.
I'd grill him for not being a proper media person, not doing his research before shouting out vile.
Very uneducated.
Harry, you need to get on TalkSport, mate. Get on TalkSport and just rinse him. I'd pay so much.
In a couple of years,
I would love nothing more than see one of us rinse him live, proper live.
Especially Harry. Harry hates Gabby Bottomley, I can tell.
Yes, I do. Yeah, I do. Consider that done. All right, you give me something to do for the end of the month. Right, I'll do that. I promise you that. Right, we'll deal with that off there. We're planning that. It would be nice, of course, to Gabby within reason. We won't be horrible, won't be personal, but we'll hold into account of what he said, because I think even he forgets what he said, and it doesn't add up if you go back to what he said a year ago. Interesting. But Ian, last player I want to discuss before we get predictions for Getafe to end. So Mala Solomon, the latest on him. David Alston for Athletic has said that West Ham in talks with Tottenham for Mala Solomon, but they've actually currently been put off for financial reasons. West Ham aim to pay around 5 million, but not agreeing to bonuses at all. Tottenham want them in case of promotion. Fiorentina pushing, but currently way below the club valuation. Am I living in, I don't know, a different universe? I didn't think it would be this low for Mana Solomon. We're talking 5 million, and this is West Ham, if they're feeling kind of going to pay it, is what you're hearing. So you're slightly surprised with the price, and do you think Solomon will leave? But the talk's been paused. That's what's interesting. So we might have a struggle in terms of selling him.
I think this has nothing to do with his ability. I think this is all to do with his nationality. I think there's a serious problem with Mana Solomon, and I read before I read anything about them not wanting to pay any bonuses. I mean, we're talking peanuts here, £5 million plus maybe another 5 or 10 if they got promoted or whatever. I got a feeling, what I read, was that there was a backlash from their supporters, as there's been other places as well over him, that he's because he's Israeli and a passionate Israeli as well, that West Ham supporters have sort of rebelled and said we don't want to sign him, and I think that's been the case across the board. And it's not just in England with Manor Solomon. Robbie Keane was lined up to be manager of Celtic. He left his job at Ferencváros. And again, there was a reaction from Celtic supporters because, 5 years ago or whatever, he managed in Israel, prior to the 7th of October attacks and Israel's response and what have you. So that's actually what the reality of what's going on in the world at the moment, that anybody with an Israeli connection appears to be being blacklisted. And that, I suspect, is what's happening with Manor Solomon. And I think it's really sad. I think it's a sad indictment of the society we live in. If this man can't get work, and £5 million is no money. What I would say, though, is that Levy stole him. Yeah, Jason Phillips. Yeah, Solomon we had on a free, didn't we? You absolutely come on there with absolutely the point I was going to make is that Levy stole him because he was playing for Shakhtar
in Ukraine,
Shakhtar Donetsk in the Ukraine. And because of the, they couldn't play and what have you, that terminated his contract, and Spurs signed him as a free agent. It was typical Levy opportunism, the something for nothing chairman. And he owes.
Ian, I'm so sorry to chip in, but just while you say it, Solomon, you will know, it's second most amount of minutes in that entire 35-man squad. Is that raising his value in the shop market? If it is, it's not worked so far. Or is it simply that Tottenham believe that he could actually contribute something this season?
Well, if we can't sell him, unless we just, cancel his contract and pay off his contract, whatever that is, we're obliged to keep it. And with 25, only a 25-man squad, that's going to be rather difficult. Yeah, I think this pre-season is weird because of the World Cup and the number of our top players that have got to the latter stages of the World Cup. It is a difficult one. I think if he was French, we would get we would be looking at somewhere 10 to 15 million, and at the moment we can't sell him for 5. So I would take anything that we could get for him if he's not part of De Zerbi's plans, and there's no indication, despite everything that happened pre-season with the minutes he played and what have you, that he's part of the plans. Then take what we can get and get him off the books, and us move on and let him move on.
Absolutely.
Ian, I think I concur with a lot of what you're saying. I think there's some karma there with exploiting one global conflict for a free, and then another global conflict is the reason that it's impossible to sell him on.
I think it's sad, man. I think I don't want to get too political or go down the rabbit hole of that, but he shouldn't be penalised for his country's actions. He's a human being. Everyone's a human being. He's a footballer. I think was it Matt in the chat said to sell him for 5 million, because I think he's not going to be in De Zerbi's plans. Let's be completely honest. I think, anyways, and it's also being ethical too. Just give him a place to play football and really prove himself. So I think we have to be careful from an ethical standpoint too, in terms of that. But I don't want to go down the political route because we'll be here for hours. But yeah, I think they're selling for whatever, let him play his football, jobs are good, and we've still made a profit off him. It's a win-win for both of us, I think.
Matt says that football has become too political, unfortunately. How do you feel about Solomon? The whole situation, football and politics needs to untangle itself from a wider perspective. The World Cup is further evidence of that.
Couldn't agree more.
Crossing over. I love both, I'll be honest with you, individually, but they do not go together, and they should never go together. And that's
couldn't agree more.
Just a mistake by people at the highest of this game as well.
I think a big part of it is when players make the choice to be political, because like Lucas Moura did that as well with Bolsonaro as well, right? So I mean, when players make the choice to be political, like freedom of speech is not freedom from consequences, and I think that's one of the things that happens when you bring things in the political sphere into your communication. Like
sometimes the question is, Dustin, does it go too far? It's like when players party, like we see Grealish is a good example that's always criticised. Where do you draw the line that you go, that's his life? Surely it's his choice what he does to an extent. I totally we get there? Where's that red line drawn? That's the conversation again to be had. And you'll see today, if you just turn on the news for 2 seconds, Infantino, claiming that he's going to fight on. You wait for not backing him, they're going to boycott it. We're seeing that go on. Well, politics, was that brought into that? Well, for me, again, the handling of the World Cup, very, very poor. But before we end, yes, Dustin, go for it.
No, I think the reality is that we can say that football and politics don't belong together, but they always have been exploited in that way. Like, Berlusconi used to do that. He used to exploit it as well. So the reality is that and that's why there's sport washing, right? So you would like to separate football and politics, but there's football owns and so much of the people's passion that politics can't help but get its grubby fingers on it because of the influence that it has.
Absolutely, that Dustin. Do you know what? By the way, I like this comment. Robbie
Top
says
tier
political
comment.
in other news. Arsenal's Keir Starmer got released, or he was definitely shown the door, and maybe not too politely either. In the end, but tell you what, we're going to preview Getafe, then we will end. So Getafe, a bit of info on them. They finished 7th last season in the 25-26 season with 51 points. A big improvement on their previous league campaign, the 24-25 season, where they finished 13th with 42 points. So to go from 13th to 7th and increase their point share, I think it's quite impressive by 9 points. So they've made leaps and bounds, let's just say, from this one season to another. I mean, we'll be hoping Tottenham to make even bigger progress than that compared to last season to this season. So very, very quickly, going to go around the whole panel. Dustin, I'll come to you first. One player that you're looking forward to watching, and what do you think the score will be?
One player I'm looking forward to watching. I don't know which of our players will be back. I mean, it's been enjoyable watching Matthias Fernandes. I think that if we would have, a Kulusevski back or a James Maddison back, one of our creative, basically our creative midfielders, because I think that that's going to be a critical part of how we create chances, how we score, considering we don't have our forward 3 signings yet. It would be between a Kulusevski or a Maddison, one of those players, because a lot of our season would really depend on their ability to create chances and create goals. So for the players that we have at the moment, otherwise give me Victor Osimhen.
Absolutely. Dustin, thank you very, very much. Alfie, one player you are looking forward to watching and score prediction.
I'm going to go off the FootMob predicted lineup just to be realistic. I want to see. There was one player I was really impressed with against Chelsea. It was Van Hecke. So I hope he gets more minutes against Getafe because I think he's a bit of a world beater. So player I'm looking out for is Van Hecke, and I think we're going to win 3-1, I reckon.
Love it. Okay, Alfie, thank you very, very much.
Sorry, can I change my answer?
Yes,
Luca Williams-Barnett. Luca Williams-Barnett.
Yeah. Good shout. Good shout. Boring mouths Alfie there. Ian, I'll come to you. Going to keep one question the same and one I'm going to change. The one I am going to change is I'm going to ask you slightly different. Who for you still has a point to prove, and you can list 1 or 2 names in this game who you're hoping ultimately it's got to change their preferences maybe with the manager, and your score prediction.
I'm trying to think who has a point to prove that might be playing. I mean, I think going back to what we said earlier, I think it's those 2 forwards who have to prove that they're good enough to stay with the club in the short term, let alone long term. If you're looking at who I'm looking forward to, I really am Van der Hecke, yes, but I'm also looking forward to seeing how Tonali and Fernandes play individually and collectively. I think that engine room of our team is going to be crucial. I also, everything I've seen about the boy Lucas Williams-Barnett is really, really exciting. I like the way he moves the ball quickly between lines. I like the way he reads the game. I'm looking forward to seeing a bit of him as well. I think he's got a massive future, and he's not going out anywhere on loan.
Absolutely, that he's not going anywhere on loan. Ian, thank you very, very much. Jack, score prediction and one player, again, slightly different question. One player you're hoping that starts.
One player I hope that starts. Oh, you're giving me the bad question. Because I was going to go who I actually really want to see. Let me see. Player I think who starts. Well, for Arsenal, it's not going to be Vinicius Junior. I'll tell you that much, Matt. Player that I hope that does start. I would like to see Williams Barnett actually start in the game. Instead of coming on as a sub. Well, that I'd maybe want to see Dane Scarlett over Richarlison, maybe just to give him a bit more of a run out, and then Richarlison, as experience, comes on a bit more at the end. Player I'm hoping to see and probably has a bit more of a point to prove. Rio Karamatton, especially after that dirty turn that he did against the Chelsea player. So I would love to not only. Well, I wouldn't actually mind seeing him start against a team like Getafe, considering we haven't played him since 2007. So it's been a while since we've played this team. And we actually lost 3-1 in that game. We don't talk about that. It was how many years? Over 10 plus years ago. Leave it alone. So yeah, I want to see Rio Karamanton play, and I want to see him shine again like he did against Chelsea. Prediction, I think I'll go with what Alfie said. I'd be a nice, comfortable little 3-1.
Lovely stuff, lovely. Thank you to the panel for tonight. A long one, but we covered a lot. There was an awful lot to discuss. A couple of bits of breaking news in there, particularly with Cody GAKPO, that we added into the agenda for tonight. Thank you to everyone for their questions and their comments. Over 1,000 views by the time I press the end button in just a second. So that is incredible. Thank you so much. And nearly as many comments and questions as well. Simply incredible. Thank you. Whether you listen live on YouTube, after on YouTube, on audio or podcast platform, we see you, we appreciate you. Your opinion matters, and we want to hear from you. Let's go around the panel and see where you can find them on social media. Dustin, thank you very much. Superb analysis and contribution as always. Where can people follow you on social media? Thank you for your time in the early hours in Singapore.
You can follow me on the tag here, which I'm very bad at spelling. And basically it's 4 a.m. Just follow me there.
Respect.
Yeah, respect to you. Respect to you. Super, super impressive. But you're used to it by now, and that's just incredible. The fact you could adjust to that is simply incredible. And I think, if I may say so, the preseason tour as well has made us kind of put ourselves in the position of a load of fans, outside of the UK in terms of the different time zones. So if you got up for it, of course, the 4 a.m.s, etc. So just a little taster of what the likes of Dustin have to go through. Dustin, thank you very, very much. Alfie, third time in a row, as I mentioned in the intro. Pleasure to have you on once again. I hope I went a little bit kinder on you on this one. I felt sorry for you just a little bit. You did hold your own very, very well, but I was unfair with the questions. But where can people follow you?
I love the questions. Keep them coming. Don't be scared. I'll eat them up. So yeah, first of all, follow Scarfey Space Talk on all social media platforms. There you go. That's going to get me in for the 4th podcast, hopefully. But if you want to follow me, for the people that can see the screen, my art is literally just. I can't do it. ABTHFC right there. And for visual listeners, it is ABTHFC. I will reiterate. Pleasure as always. It was nice to meet Dustin and Ian. I don't think I've been on a podcast with you guys before, but again, absolute pleasure. Jack, we've been on here before. So again, pleasure as always still. But yeah, thank you very much for having me.
No, thank you. Pleasure's mine. Honestly, Alfie, thank you so, so much. Ian, talk about pleasure. Pleasure to have you on also as well. Thank you so much for your time, and sorry to keep you for so long, but hopefully enjoyed the discussion. Where do people follow you on social media?
Yeah, you can get me at Shaggy1712 on X. Jack, I've just followed you. You're the one member of the panel I don't think I've got on my list, so that's where I am. I'm a member of Project Spurs. That's a growing pod. We tend to go out on a Monday just after your show. We didn't go out this week, but hopefully we'll have some big news to report on coming up soon. But Harry, thanks for having me on again. Always a pleasure doing this show. Always with you, and you've always got
good to have you.
Quality guests as well to debate with.
Yeah, absolutely. I can echo that if you don't mind me saying. The guests are absolutely amazing. Not too sure about the host, but Ian, thank you very, very much. Jack, fantastic to have you on once again. Also a pleasure. Something I can use for all 4 of you. Thank you very, very much. Where can people follow you on social media if you're not bantering or arguing with Matt? Probably along with myself.
I'm always bantering and arguing with Matt. And to the Christian Romero comment, no. That's
for context, Matt's an Arsenal fan, by the way, and this is Premier League podcast rivalry.
And also for us, extra small bit of content, he's an absolute moron and needs to just stop talking about Romero and even getting linked to Arsenal. So I'm sorry, Matt. Love you dearly, but no. And to change my comment, actually, about who I want to see in the next game, because I have just realised that Rio has a hamstring injury and is going to be out for quite a while. I'd rather see Ty Hall. He played quite well in left back, but he's actually prolifically a midfielder. So if he can play midfield and take Rio's spot on the bench for the next game, I'd be happy to see him play because he played quite well in left back. But yes, I am normally on TikTok, as everyone else knows, but I've now actually created a TikTok account, a Twitter account, just to have extra bits when it comes to transfers and all that sort of stuff. Don't know why I've done it. I deleted mine ages ago, but now I've made a new one because I'm clearly brain dead.
Good on you.
But now it's
not
still down. I'm using this hand for no reason. Down here. So for TikTok and for Twitter, it is Jack of all Spurs. Same as that. Everyone knows where I am. Everyone knows I like taking the mick out of West Ham, especially after the season. Don't look at that video if you don't want to, as Dustin said, get a little bit of erection. But apart from that, I'll be doing some more during next season, and hopefully Harry talking a bit more about Matt's waffle, hopefully soon.
Absolutely.
Oh, you just reminded me. I would actually like to see some more of Tyler Tingy as well, because for the short time that he was on, I really liked the quality of his passing.
That's a better shout, Dustin. That's a better shout. It's not boring like LWB. I like that one. That was good. Love that, you.
Absolutely. And all I will say as well, Ty Hall, not to get confused with Tyrese Hall. We and Alfie talk about this a lot.
Yeah, we do.
There's no abbreviation there, despite what people
drives me mad.
I know, but I can understand the mistake because when people just go, "No, you're wrong. It's an abbreviation." You're like,
I've got receipts. I've got receipts.
It's the birth name. You know, you can't argue it. Honestly. Anyway, on that note, thank you so much. We're now over 1,000 comments as well. So thank you so much for the support. Really do appreciate it. Thank you for putting your trust in us, whether it be once again or for the first time. I'll end with, come on, you Spurs.
Come on, you Spurs.